If you have ever felt that what is truly deep sounds too strange for this world, if you have noticed that what is genuinely good is often treated as boring, then this message is for you. Because there is a silent inversion happening right before our eyes. And Dallas Willard saw this with unsettling clarity when he said, "What is truly deep and good is regarded as foolish and trivial, or worse, boring, while what is actually foolish and trivial is considered beautiful and profound." This statement is not merely cultural criticism, it is a spiritual diagnosis. We live in a time when depth has lost its value, silence has become waste, discipline has become oppression, consistency has become monotony. What requires time, inner formation and character transformation has come to be seen as irrelevant. Meanwhile, the shallow is celebrated, the loud is exalted, the immediate is confused with the true. Dallas Willard was not speaking only about the world out there. He was also speaking about how even faith itself has been shaped by superficiality. A faith that needs to entertain in order to survive, that needs to be light enough not to disturb, that needs to be fast enough not to require perseverance. And little by little, what is deep begins to feel out of place. Those who seek silence are called strange. Those who seek spiritual discipline are seen as extreme. Those who seek inner transformation are accused of complicating things too much. But Willard reminds us, depth was never popular. What is truly good forms the soul slowly, and everything that is slow loses space in a culture addicted to fast stimuli. What is truly deep requires attention, and attention is rare in a distracted world. That is why what builds character does not receive applause. What forms virtue does not go viral. What transforms the inner life does not create spectacle. And then the world inverts values. The banal becomes beautiful, the empty becomes profound, the superficial becomes inspiring, and the deep becomes boring. Dallas Willard saw that this inversion does not happen by accident. It happens because depth confronts, it demands change, it requires abandoning easy habits. It does not massage the ego, it exposes it. That is why it is more comfortable to call the deep foolish than to allow it to reveal our own shallowness. A deep spiritual life does not fit into catchy phrases. It is not reduced to quick emotions. It is not built in occasional encounters. It requires daily practice, inner formation, silent obedience, perseverance when no one is watching, and that does not impress. Willard said, in essence, that the problem is not that people do not want what is good. They do not want the process that leads to it. They prefer the appearance of depth to real transformation. That is why the world learns to admire what shines, not what sustains. It learns to call beautiful what stimulates, not what heals. It learns to call deep what moves for a moment, not what changes a lifetime. And when faith enters this game, it begins to get sick. It becomes shallow to be accepted. It becomes loud to be noticed. It becomes simple to avoid disturbing. But a faith like that does not form disciples. It forms consumers. Dallas Willard was deeply concerned about this. He knew that superficial spirituality does not withstand suffering, does not sustain hard decisions, and does not form character. It works while everything is fine, but it collapses when life demands depth. That is why today so many people say they are spiritually tired, not because they went too deep, but because they lived too shallow for too long. The shallow exhausts, the superficial drains. Noise does not sustain, only the deep sustains the soul. But the deep requires something our generation has lost the habit of offering: time. Time with God. Time in silence. Time in inner formation. Time in practices that do not bring immediate return. That is why the world prefers to call it boring, because then it does not have to deal with the emptiness it carries. Dallas Willard invites us to resist this inversion, to not measure value by applause, to not confuse popularity with truth, to not reject depth just because it is not attractive to the world. He calls us back to a solid inner life, a faith that does not need to look beautiful because it is true, a spirituality that does not need to be interesting because it is transforming. Maybe you have felt this personally. Maybe you tried to live deeper and felt out of place, sought silence and were misunderstood, chose discipline and were called radical, chose depth and were told you were complicating things. Dallas Willard would say, keep going, because what is truly good almost always seems strange at first. What is truly deep is rarely celebrated, but it is what sustains when enthusiasm fades. In the end, it is not what is beautiful that saves us, not what is interesting that sustains us, not what is popular that transforms us. It is what is deep, what is true, what is good. And even when the world calls it boring, it remains the only path that truly forms the soul. And when this inversion begins to be seen more clearly, something inside us enters into conflict. Because deep down, we all know that what truly sustains us was never what the world calls interesting. The problem is that we have been trained to seek stimulation, not formation, sensation, not transformation, appearance, not essence. Dallas Willard understood that the human heart was created for depth, but it can be conditioned to superficiality. And when that happens, what is deep begins to cause discomfort. Silence feels empty. Discipline feels oppressive. Consistency feels rigid. And what was once good is rejected because it requires something we no longer want to give: sustained attention. The human soul was not made to live on fragments. It was not created to survive on emotional peaks. It needs roots. It needs practices that slowly shape. It needs a firm center, and that will never be popular. The problem is not that people do not seek meaning. They seek meaning all the time. The problem is that they have been taught to seek meaning in shallow things, and the shallow may distract, but it does not sustain. It entertains for a moment and then abandons. That is why so many people live exhausted without knowing exactly why. It is not excess depth, it is lack of it. Dallas Willard insisted that a deep spiritual life is not spectacular, but it is solid. It does not impress, but it remains. It does not call attention, but it sustains hard decisions when no one is applauding. And this directly confronts the logic of our time. Today, what draws attention is what shocks. What goes viral is what provokes quick reaction. What grows is what requires little effort and gives immediate return. In this environment, everything that requires consistency loses space. Everything that requires patience seems outdated. But the soul does not mature at the speed of the algorithm. It matures in faithful repetition, in prayer that no one sees, in reading that brings no immediate emotion, in obedience that brings no visible reward. And that is exactly why this path is called boring, because it offers no shortcuts, no applause, no constant sense of novelty, but it offers something the shallow never offers: inner stability. Dallas Willard knew that a faith built on what the world considers beautiful and deep falls apart at the first serious suffering, because it never descended to the level of character. It was never integrated into life. It never formed holy habits. It existed as an idea, not as a practice. And when pain comes, ideas do not sustain anyone. Only practices do. That is why the world despises what truly prepares the soul to live, because preparation is not glamorous. Formation is not attractive. Spiritual training is not exciting at first glance, but it is what keeps us standing when everything collapses. Maybe you have noticed this in yourself. What helped you most in difficult moments was not a beautiful phrase, not an emotional moment, not impactful content. It was something simple and deep, a life of prayer built over time, a quiet trust in God, a conviction slowly formed, and almost no one sees that. Dallas Willard calls us to stop measuring depth by immediate impact. The deep is not measured by reaction, but by transformation over time. It does not reveal itself in applause, but in perseverance. A deep life continues when no one is watching. A deep faith remains when enthusiasm fades. A deep spirituality sustains hard decisions without needing external validation. And this is exactly what today's culture no longer knows how to value. That is why the world calls the deep banal, because it no longer knows how to recognize it, because it has lost its criteria, because it has become used to confusing intensity with truth and novelty with meaning. But what is truly good never needed to be popular to be true. Dallas Willard was warning us. If you let the world define what is deep, you will end up rejecting exactly what could save your soul from chronic superficiality. And here is the decisive point. Christianity was not made to be interesting, it was made to be transforming. When we try to make it interesting at any cost, we often sacrifice what makes it true. This does not mean despising beauty or creativity. It means not replacing depth with entertainment, not trading formation for stimulation, not confusing spiritual life with religious consumption.